on the audience and on the dais to silence their electronic devices and give all of our attention to what's at hand. Don't have anyone here tonight to give us an invocation, so instead we'll have a moment of silence that we'll keep in mind our police and fire, first responders, our staff here, and all the work that they do for us that we take for granted. Please kneel or bow your heads with me. Thank you very much. For those of you that are willing and able, please stand with me to pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you again, everybody. Okay. Miss Maria, we have a title to read?
Yes, sir. The notice of the City Council of the City of Maitland, Florida, amending the procedures and requirements for securing a permit to hold a special event, providing for legislative funding, providing for severability, providing for codification, providing for conflict, and providing for an effective date.
All right, very good. Jay, you want to share with us?
Yeah, I'm just here to answer any questions council may have. I do have one item to add to the discussion that we had previously. We did add language that we discussed, which is really a minor addition, but to the application process for anyone that puts in for a special event, they're now required to submit a maintenance of traffic plan. And that addition is in lines 135 and 36. So besides that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Council have any questions of Jay? Hearing none. Anybody from the public like to address this particular agenda item? Again, hearing none, we will chair would certainly entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to move to adopt the proposed ordinance amending Chapter 14 special events of the city code.
We have us a motion. Well, good. Looking for a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Maria, if you would please call the roll.
Thank you. Councilmember Guthrie?
Aye.
Councilmember Cole Harrison?
Aye.
Councilmember Thomas?
Aye.
Councilmember Wild?
Aye.
Mayor McDonald?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jay. All right, Ms. Maria, you're on again.
Thank you. An ordinance of the City of Maitland, Florida relating to fire prevention and amending the Maitland City Code, implementing the Florida Fire Protection Code, adopting the Florida Fire Prevention Code by reference provisions of nationally recognized codes, providing for the general regulations of fire prevention activities within the City of Maitland, readopting the local technical amendments as prescribed by Florida statute, reorganizing sections to coordinate with the Florida Fire Prevention Code, providing for clarifications of requirements regarding SAM types, readopting fire sprinkler systems requirements, readopting electronic monitoring requirements for fire sprinkler system, providing for conflict, providing for severability, and providing for codification, providing for an effective date.
You're getting pretty good at that. Yeah, sure.
So this is the public hearing for the readoption of the local amendments to the fire code. Fire Marshal Lawrence, Deputy Chief Morton are in the back if you have any questions, but it's pretty much a statutory requirement that you read on.
Yeah, I was going to tease Chris and Brandon about pulling the short straw tonight. Any questions? I'm good, huh? Well, anybody from the public like to address this specific agenda item? Hearing and seeing none, I believe that a motion would be in order.
Motion to approve an ordinance amending and readopting City Code Chapter 6, Fire Protection and Prevention.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Good shake. All right, Ms. Maria, if you would, please call the roll.
Thank you. Councilmember Hall Harrison.
Aye.
Councilmember Thomas.
Aye.
Councilmember Wild.
Aye.
Councilmember Guthrie.
Aye.
Mayor McDonald.
Aye. Okay, now, Ms. Sharon, you are Chair, you want to do the flag?
An ordinance of the City of Maitland, Florida, amending Chapter 2 Administration, Article 4, Pensions and Retirement, Division 4, Police Officers and Firefighters, to amend the City of Maitland Police Officers and Firefighters Pension Plan membership, providing for conflict, ordinance, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date.
Okay. You want to lead us in this, Sharon?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So this is an ordinance to amend our police and fire pension fund membership. It has no financial impact. We've attached a statement from the actuary that there's no financial impact. It would name the finance director by title to be a member of the pension board, just like it does for the fire chief and police chief. That way you have those three without term limits on the board. So whoever's in that position at the time would assume a membership as a trustee.
Very good. I think we all understand this one. Anybody from the public like to address this particular agenda item? No, you guys don't get the power. All right, hearing none, we'll close the public period, bring it back to council, and I will be aiming for a motion.
I'll move to adopt an ordinance to amend Chapter 2, Article 4, Division 4, to amend the membership of the police officers and firefighters pension plan.
If there's not a double quick second, I'll be surprised.
Second.
Thank you. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, Ms. Maria, please call the roll.
Councilmember Thomas.
Aye.
Councilmember Wild.
Aye.
Councilmember Guthrie.
Aye.
Councilmember Paul Harrison.
Aye.
Mayor McDonald.
Aye. Okay. You did just get warmed up, Maria, go ahead.
An ordinance of the City of Maitland, Florida, granting Disposal Inc. a non-exclusive franchise to provide roll-off container collection and disposal of waste within the City of Maitland, Florida, outlining the franchisee's duties and providing for terms and conditions under which such franchise will operate, providing for severability and providing for an effective date.
All right, very good. Ms. Sharon?
Yes, Mayor and Council, this is a public hearing for a non-exclusive construction and demolition franchise with Disposal Inc. They've been around for many years. They wish to do business in Maitland. Because we excluded this from our garbage contract, anyone who qualifies can apply and you can approve them to provide services. They pay a franchise fee to the city.
Perfect. How many of these do we have now?
I have lost count.
I know. I run out of fingers and toes too.
So I'll go ahead and move to adopt.
Well, it's not the public.
Oh, okay,
Public,
public, yeah. My bad.
Because I'm sure that Kathy's anxious to tell us her thoughts on this. Anybody from the public like to address this specific agenda item? Hearing none, we'll close the public period, bring it back to council, and a motion that would definitively be in order.
Now,
Now you're good.
make a motion to move to adopt an ordinance granting a non-exclusive franchise agreement to Disposal Inc.
All right, look for a second. Don't make me do this.
Mike did, Mike did.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, Ms. Moran?
Councilmember Wild.
Aye.
Councilmember Guthrie.
Aye.
Councilmember Paul Harrison.
Aye.
Councilmember Thomas.
Aye.
Mayor McDonald.
Aye. Okay, Ms. Sharon, do you have anything you want to share with us that will pretend like it's old business?
Sure, just a few things. One, I did email you out regarding Fort Maitland, court case with the resident parking issue that is provided by the city attorney. And so hopefully you get a chance to read it. We're bringing this back on November 9th. So I'd like to have all your questions answered so we can move forward with a decision. And Cliff can address that if you want to give him a call and talk to him at some point. He can walk you through what that means. And additionally, I'll be emailing you a memo tomorrow with the grant restrictions on the parkland as well as the facilities that go in the parkland if you accept the grant from the state, which is actually a federal grant that's passed down through the
Oh,
parkland.
this one's bad?
Yes. So I will spell that all out for you. We've got
Yes.
it's pretty clear in the handbook. And third, if you haven't already, on November 9th, Gem Lake PD will be coming to you. And so if you would like to avail yourself of a briefing from the community development staff, they'd be more than happy to do that. It's complicated, you know, issue. They've been working with it for a year, close to a year. So if you want to hear about it before that night, and when you get your packet, you obviously can read through it, but it may be helpful to sit down, and there's a lot to the PD, so.
It would be helpful. Anybody have any questions of Cliff regarding the Fort Maitland Park and how we are, where we are, and what our constraints may be?
It might be easier just to give them a call after
Yeah.
everybody's read
All right.
them.
I didn't know if anybody has a bit for the public, any extra questions? We have Bassmasters tonight, right, Cliff? Yeah.
Bassmasters would be among those people who need to get congratulated.
Yeah. They taught us a lesson. So, all right, any other comments? Okay, thanks, Sharon. Anybody wish to remove any items from the consent agenda? Hearing none, anybody from the public like to address consent agenda items numbers 2 through 9? Now would be the time. Hearing none, look for a motion regarding approving the consent agenda.
I wish the driver's insurance covered a little bit more of that, the arts and history repair, but I saw that we're a little short on that one,
Their insurance isn't covering any of it?
but not all but, what, 24,000, is that what I read?
Well,
Yeah, they got 100,000.
that, it may cover all of it. There's an excess policy
Yeah.
in play, so.
Good.
They have an umbrella policy, so we can pursue that?
Yes, we will do that. We are doing that.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? Motion to be in order.
Make a motion to approve consent agenda.
Second. You have a motion and a second. Any further questions or comments?
Oh, Coach Downey is great, by the way.
What's that?
The Parks and Rec.
Yeah. Ms. Bray, if you would call the roll.
Councilmember Guthrie,
Aye.
Councilmember Paul Harrison,
Aye.
Councilmember Thomas,
Aye.
Councilmember Wild,
Aye.
Mayor McDonald.
Aye. Okay, Ms. Sheridan, you're on. Oh, I'm sorry. I hate to miss the public hearing, because I'm sure Stacy's got something she wants to share. This is our very legendary Maitland General Public Hearing to address any items that are not on this specific agenda. Yes, sir, come right on. And if you would, just give us your name and address, and we'll be happy to hear what you have to share.
Name is Carlos, last name is Reyna, 1200 Willowbrook Trail. So, when I just ask for a little leeway, because it's a little personal, so I'm going to try to keep control.
I understand.
I definitely want to say thank you to Mrs. Waldrop. She's been excellent for providing me all the records, and just about every day her and I are talking. So, and Mr. Dan Maitland out there, thank you for keeping an open mind. What I'm trying to do is just get information, because we're going to be meeting with the magistrate on November 4th in regards to information I can't find nowhere in your codes. Just don't know where it is. Look for it. I'm understanding that the code enforcements are reactive instead of proactive, and that's due to directives from you guys. If that's so, where can I find that information? Second question would be, who can open code enforcement cases? Is it just residents, or can it be staff members? And if so, how does that work? My third question is, how long can code enforcement keep a case or an event open? Because I know we changed software. For how long can that be open before an official complaint is entered by code enforcement? So those three questions I'll leave behind. I'll let her, she's got my information. You guys can get back.
She's terrific. Yes.
She's been wonderful. I'm always apologizing to her.
Me
So
too.
what I'm trying to avoid is just the Hatchfield and McCoy situation between neighbors. I just moved here, I bought the house October 19th, I think it was, of 2018. And we moved June 6th of that year, because I had to wait till the kids got done with school. Ever since then, I have 2 police officers who will be with me at the meeting. I have police records to include code enforcement documentation. It's ridiculous. The amount of work that I put city clerk through and me trying to understand code enforcement without looking at it from my perspective. So those 3 questions I just put out there. Mr. Matthews and I will be meeting at 10:30. Actually, even Eric Shea was awesome too. All 3 of us will be meeting on Thursday at 10:30. If you guys can just give those answers and then he can follow on, I'm happy with that. I'm just trying to avoid a meeting with the administrator that it's everybody's wasting money and time, if you ask me. This can be done civil.
Very good.
That's going out of my pocket.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You're always welcome. Okay. Sharon, you want to give, oh, I'm sorry. Y'all go right ahead. Ladies, pick whatever you want. Go ahead, Ms. Stacy.
Hi, I'm Stacy Larson. I'm the director of the library. If you didn't know, I'm wearing it in very large letters on my face today.
Yeah.
We have gotten kind of up to speed. You know, we're still not doing much in person, but I do have some really cool stuff going on this week that I want to share. If you did not give blood at Stanford Brewing this weekend and you still would like to give blood, you can come to the library tomorrow. We had so many people sign up, they extended our blood drive from 5 hours to 10 hours. So it is from 10 to 8 tomorrow. As of this morning, there were still some appointments available. We are having a bunch of book clubs this week. We've got mysteries tomorrow night, adult contemporary authors on Wednesday, and a kids book club on Wednesday afternoon. All of those are by Zoom. Then on Saturday at 11 o'clock, so we have plenty of time to get it done before the police and fire event at 4, we are having a pumpkin painting and carving party on Zoom. We'll have templates and things that you can use. We'll be doing demonstrations, but it's all on Zoom, so people will be able to do it at home. Or you can keep the paint and the pumpkin guts and make your own fried pumpkin seeds after. But all that can be found on our website at maitlandpubliclibrary.org.
Stacy, did y'all do the tea party?
We did the tea party to go. So what we did was we put together
Through a curbside pickup window.
Yeah, it was. So for the tea party to go, we put together tote bags with a tiara, a ring, a sword, a pirate patch. There might have been some stickers. I think there might have been some temporary tattoos in there. There were all kinds of activities to do. We also included recipes of some of our tea party favorites and storybook costume ideas. So we did those in to-go packages that people came to pick up. We were planning to do a pickup from October 1 to October 16 because the in-person tea would have been the 17th. And we ran out of kits on the 4th day.
Wow.
So we had to go make up some more. We actually managed to keep away from the very last one on the 16th. So we stretched out the whole time we said we would. But lots of parents and kids came to pick up big bags. I haven't been on social media to see how many people put up their pictures, but we did ask them to post, their kids and their storybook finest. So hopefully people had a good time. They were very excited to get the tea party to go.
Awesome, that's great.
Thanks, Stacy.
Also, the Maitland Library is looking to try and get 100 subscribers to their YouTube channel. They're now
I
up
did.
to 80. They need 20 more, and then they get their own URL. So if you go to youtube.com and type in Maitland Library, you can subscribe on your phones while you're sitting here, and then the library gets their URL.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councilwoman. Yeah, right now it's a bunch of gobbledygook, a whole bunch of letters and numbers out through youtube.com. We would like youtube.com/Maitland Public Library. So
I think I was 43 or 46, I can't remember.
I was
Did you get a
28,
free
and that was on
tiara?
Wednesday.
I didn't get a free
so
tiara.
You could borrow Leona's, I'll let you.
I'm absolutely certain that I have an entire box of tiaras, so I can hook you up.
Thank you. Ms. Kathy.
My name is Kathy Sandifer, and I live at 710 Lake Catherine. And I just wanted to thank the city, the mayor, and the council members that I went Saturday and got a tree at the Mayo Park. It is a beautiful tree. It is a cypress tree. It's in a huge pot, and I appreciate it, and our lake will appreciate it. So this will be our 5th tree that we've planted by the lake, a cypress tree, and I want to thank you for the city of doing that.
That's awesome.
I did
Yeah.
see that it was sponsored by Duke Energy, so, along with the city, so, thank you. It was a great gift.
Thank you, more us than Duke, but we'll thank Duke too. Thank you, I heard it was a great event.
It was.
Anybody else like to address the council on any non-agenda item? Ms. Joanne? All right, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and bring back the council. So, Ms. Sharon, now, you.
Yes, thank you. So, back in July, ACI consultants completed the site evaluation of the 3 most likely sites at the time for the new library. And at the council workshop on August 31st, there was unanimous consensus to move forward with the Quinn Strong Park site. You then voted on that on September 14th to select Quinn Strong as the new site for the library. At the subsequent meeting, at that meeting, we did in fact bring a proposal for the entire process that included renderings and getting through to program development. Council expressed an interest in phasing this out, starting just with the community engagement and being able to stop at the end of the community engagement and make another decision in a decision tree. So ACI went back to the drawing board and we all had long discussions about this, and the scope tonight includes identification of the stakeholders in the community, in-person focus group meetings, an online survey, and incorporation of a vision for Quinn Strong and the surrounding area to include other improvements, the park improvements, pedestrian access and parking. So that's what's in the scope that's before you tonight. It's significantly less. It's $47,200. One of the things we did talk about, Scott Weber is here, and I know he's going to get up and talk to you, so I don't want to steal anything he's going to say, but we did push back the community engagement to January, the actual in-person, because we felt that November and December would be difficult time for anyone to want to come to in-person meetings, given holidays, elections, all that comes from the elections, all the school stuff that they're dealing with. We didn't think the principals would really have time to help us with focus groups when they're concentrating on getting children educated safely in the schools and at home. So we looked to build excitement in November and December by getting the webpage up and running, doing social media posts, letting people know we're planning to take community engagement and maybe make reservations for January. So we does push it out a little further, but the consensus was we would not get meaningful attendance in person between now and the first of the year. So that's something to think about. It means it pushes the report through to March, April, but I think we'll see where we are in January, but hopefully people will be less distracted. I think right now it'd be really difficult to ask people to focus on this. So, Scott, I didn't know if you wanted to say a
Anybody
few
have any
words?
questions with Sharon? Otherwise, we'll hear from Scott.
Okay. Thanks, Scott.
Good evening. It's so great to see everybody again. Scott Weber with ACI Architects. I really love your shields. You guys did a great job. Tonight, I brought some people that are smarter than I am here to help me. Julie Von Weller is our community outreach expert. And also on the phone, I have Andrew Dalgan, who is our library planning expert. So we're here really to answer questions. This is an incredibly exciting phase. This is when we get the best ideas from all of the community through these engagement process. It's a 5-month process. It's every bit of data that we collect out of it has to be collated, brought in, ciphered down, and then brought back to you. And that really lays the groundwork for what we're going to design. How do we take all these ideas, all these different visions, and boil them into something that our hands can draw? So this is a wonderful, wonderful phase. We always look forward to this phase. And on one side, it's wonderful that you slowed this down so we can actually spend our time, take our time, really get the input that we need from the public.
Okay, thanks, Scott. Anybody have any questions?
I'll just
Scott,
stand
or
by if you
Julie?
have any questions.
Yeah, Scott, and I'm sure everybody here is
Go ahead, Julie.
Oh, okay. is interested in how are you gonna get this involvement during the times of COVID? You know, I mean, we can't have a big group in here, you know, we can't go hand out, what, you know, as Sharon said, lollipops to people. So you know, we get an idea. Could you share some of the actions that y'all will provide to get that info?
Yeah, and Julie's going to speak to this as well, but I think, great question. We're struggling, the whole industry is struggling with that. How do we do these things safely and still get the data and the input that we need? You know, in years past, we may have had 60 people in the room at one time. Everybody's doing design charrettes and sharing ideas. So now we have to slow it down a little bit, be a little bit safer, and have these different sort of sequences to this. So Julie, you want to elaborate a little bit on this?
Yeah, so Scott said it exactly. This is the most exciting part of the process, because what comes out of it is only as good as the cross-section of people you can get, the quality and the quantity of the engagement. So during this phase, you know, we've talked obviously with your staff and Sharon and everything great about all the different groups that they're going to target, and we're going to target as a team, because we already have gone over that list and you know how you can do that outreach. But like Scott said, there would literally be at least 60 people in a room, and that's maybe up to 100, and then you break them down into groups of 10. But it's just so limited now in that regard. And so the good thing that's going to come from this is people will be able, because there's smaller numbers, but there's plenty of sessions. There's at least 10, I think, sessions is what is scheduled in combination with the online survey. There's so much education that needs to be done before we can even get into the discussion about the site selection. I mean, it really comes down to, I mean, there's 4 key things. We could talk about the current situation that brought us here, where the library has been. I remember we were talking earlier about how it's been 10 years ago, I guess, with you guys, when you were reading back through your notes, why the library is deficient. And then what's really important is Anders' role is critical in educating the residents of Maitland. Some might be aware of, some might not, in terms of where libraries are headed in the next century. So that way they can really get excited and understand the opportunities via technology, social, emotional, social opportunities. And then talk about how the site was selected, because you guys are obviously intimately aware of it. I commend you for having a unanimous decision. I mean, that's pretty incredible in terms of the site. So educating your residents and your users and the patrons of the library on, how that site was selected, the great aspects of that site, and then what the deficiencies are, right? Because every site that you guys looked at had some deficiencies. So it's not just as simple as sending out a survey, right? Like we have that in the scope of work, but there's a whole video presentation that goes along with it. And if you just rely on a survey, you're missing a tremendous amount of quality of engagement with your citizens, which I think you guys would agree they deserve, that part. And then obviously the feedback on programming elements, because dependent on where people want to see this go, will decide, help be part of that process for the architects to go and design that site around. And so that is key. And the only way you really get that is through that meaningful connection, with these smaller groups will be actually an opportunity. So it's information first, collaboration, engagement second, but I commend you guys for also, Sharon, realizing that it's really tough. It's like the summer. It's really tough in the holidays and it's really tough in the summer. So we're here to be your partner, and whatever you guys decide, and make sure we make it the best we possibly can alongside you.
Anybody have any questions for Scott or Julie?
Yeah, I do.
Go ahead, Mike.
So you're envisioning this more as trying to sell the library than trying to decide if there's an interest in building it, and there's a big difference there. So your job is to promote the library so people will be for it.
I think our job, what we heard from the last council, is to go out and seek input from the residents. It's not to sell or
the way you kind of described it, it was kind of like going to get everybody on board, and we're going to move forward and have this great project.
I think all we know at this stage is that you've approved one site for us to look at. And what does that building want to be? What does that program of that space want to be? That's what we're going to learn now, and how it's all set up, and how it engages the park, and what the big vision for it that it could be.
So, as part of this, would you say the library would cost this much, that your tax burden would be this much? Is that worth it to you? Do you want a library? If you had the option of joining the Winter Park Library, would you rather do that? Would you rather join Orange County? So would you lay out all these? And I like Flintstone, don't get me wrong, but I'm just wondering if this is sort of you're filling out an objective net and laying out everything to people that they can make a decision on.
I don't think we'll be asking those questions at all. In our charge was to, what is this space going to be at the Quinstrom site? So our questions would be more about the programming of the space, what would you like to see in the 21st library, how does it work with the community, how do you engage it, how do I pull up, how do I park, where do we go, what kind of events can I have here? It's that kind of information we're looking for.
Anything else, Mike?
Well, I guess I agree. I guess that to me, and to me, the big questions are you willing to pay for this? Do you want to do this?
We don't know what it is to pay for yet, Mike.
I know, but I mean, if we're having if we're talking about a library, I guess gauging people's interest in moving forward and paying for it. But you know, that's just one thought. So you have 10 groups. Is there like 10 different demographic groups in Maitland that you've identified to go after, or?
Sure. I mean, yeah, I think I can speak to that. So it's very important that you get a cross-section of people, because otherwise you only get one perspective, right? So some of the examples of groups that we're looking at is obviously the senior adult population with the senior center, the current users of the library who are very active, children engaging with the schools in terms of getting the word out, information that this is coming, not for them to do anything, but to make the information known and available so that way they can come, because there's all different types of synergies that Maitland can choose or choose not to explore from these sessions. And so it's really important that you do get, you know, whether it's the senior population, the children population, the teen advisory population, because I mean, this will be their library, right? As much as it will be the senior population. The cultural groups, obviously people involved, and the wonderful art and history museum, you know, that's right there is going to be important. You know, having other civic organizations that are like your church organizations. I mean, there is no defined, we have to have these. However, we should want as many as we can to get a true cross-population of information and reactions from them. So the 10 groups are not, this one is for seniors, this one is for students, this one is for current library users. They can all come whenever works best for them, and some will be in the evening, some will be in the day, to provide multiple opportunities for engagement.
Okay.
Perfect. Anybody else have any insights or questions for Scott or Julie?
Yeah, I have, I guess, 2 questions. One is, is it Andrew on the phone?
Anders.
Anders, where does Anders come into play with this and with, you know, communication, getting it out there and getting people informed and educated? And also, part of the next question is, we want to make sure we reach everybody. I know where the big population of people are, but, you know, everybody in Maitland needs to be counted, from the west side to the south side to the east side. So, just want to throw that out to make sure.
Well, we're going to give it a try for technology. Anders, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear, and I think my principal role in this phase is to help, not with selling the project, but informing the community about, as Scott said, where public libraries are going today. One of the hazards that I think I've encountered in facilitating community engagement exercises like this is that the community often typically knows very well what they have in their own local library, but they don't necessarily know what's going on in the broader library environment. I have worked in and with libraries for more than 40 years. I've worked specifically on planning library facilities for more than 35 years. I've worked with public libraries, academic, special libraries, libraries as small as a couple thousand square feet, as big as 400,000+ square feet. I think the range of experience and exposure that I bring to the table is a key to help convey to the community what the options really truly are. And that's what I hope to do as part of this engagement process.
Anders, can you hear me?
Yes.
So where are libraries going? What functionalities are you seeing into the future that maybe we would incorporate here in Maitland?
Well, I think the overall theme can be summarized by thinking of the heritage of the library, which has been very much focused on collections and preservation and the storage of, frankly, stuff. Looking forward, as we've moved into the 21st century, the emphasis on libraries has shifted, and this is true of libraries really of all kinds, but when you think of a public library, we've shifted our emphasis from collections to connections. The library increasingly is about providing an environment where the user can make connections. They make connections with the traditional library collection, but they're also making connections with one another. They're making connections with a program presenter. Over the last 15, 20 years, libraries have gained a far greater interest in providing program and meeting facilities, to create, to foster a certain kind of connection, a certain kind of exchange of information. Another key trend over the last 5 to 7 years has been the emergence of what we in library land call maker spaces. Technology has created an opportunity to democratize, small d, the production of information and various resources. We have capabilities, we have tools today that allow individuals to publish books, to create videos and podcasts and so on. The catch is that the software technology, for example, that we have access to create those information resources, the software technology tends to be more expensive than individual users can afford, and so people have come to look to the public library as a place where the community can pool their resources, acquire those tools, and make them available to the entire community at large. There are, and I could say there are a lot of, I call them flavors of maker spaces, but I think part of our exploration would be to see in this community engagement exercise would be to offer that information to the community and to see, to try and gauge what their interest is in having that kind of space within the library. If there's interest, then let's incorporate it. If there's not interest, well, that's evidently then not something that Maitland needs.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions of Scott or Julie or Anders?
We'll stand by.
That's our discussion.
We'll stand by.
All right, thank you. All right, this is an intriguing discussion that, you know, as Mike touched on earlier, they're certainly digging down in the weeds and getting into some of the details. But I'm not sure that we are not doing the city and the community and future residents justice not to get as much input as we can. And that's the key point of what they're trying to address, is to get some insights into the levels of service in a variety of different areas. Y'all have heard me use the phrase, I'm less interested in seeing ourselves constrained at just the thought of a library, that a community facility that addresses the needs that the residents today and residents in the future will have, because let's think about this. When have we ever done this before? We didn't do it with the library. We sure as heck didn't do it with a civic center. When are we going to design something for us? And I'm standing up because my back hurts. This is the time to invest in ourselves. And it can be as modest and just be very library centric, or it could be, I was getting a pretty big kick out of Anders talking about a 400,000 square foot. But, you know, again, thank you. Of course, you're bringing a checkbook too, right, Anders?
Oh, absolutely.
But the idea that we don't know what the animal looks like, we don't know how many humps this camel may have. And until we begin getting far-sighted input from citizens, we just don't know.
This is what we got right now.
I agree.
That's it.
No, we have an empty sheet, and we're blessed to be able to have that. Now, how much do we want? Who do we want to be? And what do we want to be able to do? Are we going to continue to say that, well, yeah, we can go do that in Altamont, or we can go do that in Winter Park. We deserve this. Now, you know, again, you guys all would very clearly know that I have a very clear view of all this. But it's getting this insights, but we just don't know. Because we've been limited by the perspective that we've had for the last 50 years. So, or longer. We have a chance to impress our residents, impress the world. And if we're ever going to borrow money at 0.0 that we can do that now, this is it. So it was, and you guys know my own views about, you know, site selection and so forth, but it was important to keep the momentum moving forward for this that we pretended for years not to know. Time to stop. We got a great opportunity. You know, if I want to hear what, I'm sure Leona's going to have some idea. She wants it pink, I don't, that's fine. You know, but whatever it is, or, you know, Christopher, or, you know, folks that are beyond us. So, and that's what I'm going to count on, you know, Larry and Scott and Julie and Anders to allow us to broaden our perspective a bit. Because this, I don't have anything against the library. To limit us to that may not be what we really want, or should actually build. And I sure want to use, I don't want to build an extra square foot and pay for an extra square foot that's not getting used. A lot. And so again, that pride of ownership that we can have, we're about to have it right next door in Independence Square. That's going to be very cool. And this is even on a bigger scale for us. So I can do this all night, so I'm sure y'all have some other thoughts.
I think it's going to be an interesting process because as Mike was I don't know if this is what you're getting at, Mike, but until we know what people want to pay for, or if they're willing to pay for it. We don't know how big it's gonna be. We don't know, I mean, we picked Quinn Strong in many ways because of the size of a building and a project that we kind of thought we needed.
Yeah,
And so we did a site selection based on a bunch of unknowns because it gave us the most flexibility. It was the site that could accommodate a fairly large or a bigger building. So I think it's in many ways, it's really hard to know what goes first in this. I mean, because we're saying, hey, what do you want in Quinn Strong Park? And then I'm sure we're going to get out of this, I don't want it in Quinn Strong Park. So it's going to be an interesting process. I think it's going to be hard for everyone to form a consensus on this, and it's one that I think we're going to have to do deliberately to make sure we avoid a division and problem with us getting something successful done. So, but I do think obviously community feedback, community input is.
We have to make the effort.
Yeah, it has to be there, and
A good effort.
and we need the most input we can get. But I do think it's going to pose some challenges here to figure out again what this is going to look like, because I struggle with have we. I understand what you're saying, Dale, but are we making this so ambiguous and general that we're going to get?
Oh, I understand.
We're just gonna
That's
get
why it's gonna
everybody
come back to us
in and
eventually,
say-
or maybe you guys.
Yeah.
You know, that, to take these insights, these ideas, these dreams, in some cases, you know, and whittle them down to something. Sooner or later, 5 of us gotta leave. And it's gonna come down to commitment, just like, frankly, you know, it required a commitment a couple of meetings ago. We're either gonna get out and do this, and there's absolutely zero chance to please everybody. We know that going in. But if that was easy and that was, and Mike, you're right. I mean, that there can be people upset because their visions may be different. And we've needed to do this for a long time. You know, it's a great building, a great legacy, but it's seen its best days. The need goes on, and the need has become broader and I don't know how many, you know, in 1906 or whenever it was, Stacy, when that front room was built, you know, that, 1,000 people that lived in Maitland. And it probably stretched and counts some cows too.
451.
Yeah, there you go. And I didn't use the term cow to offend anybody. The idea that, now this is a 22,000 person resident city. And I'm guessing when the census comes out, it'll be bigger than that. And during the life of this community facility, whatever it is, this might be a 50,000 person city. So, whenever, you know, I think all of us at different times have had different ideas. I don't want to miss a one. I mean, Joanne may have some epiphany that I haven't thought of, that nobody's thought of. Kathy, could be anybody. You know, so, you know, that's where it's that taking ownership of it and realizing that nobody's going to be entirely locked out. But at the end of the day, Leona realizes, you know, Mom did a smart thing back in 2020. And Christopher's going to tell you the same thing. Well, maybe, yeah, maybe not. But, so these are things that, this is our job to lead. And we'll also be culling down ideas. Make me stop, I can do this. I'll ask, you know, pass to half a minute. Any other thoughts?
I want to talk a bit more about community engagement, since that's the entire scope of work is community engagement.
Right.
When I opened this up, I was expecting some big and revolutionary and fabulous ideas on how to engage the community during COVID. In my professional life, I spend a lot of time on Zoom meetings, board meetings, conference calls, giant meetings that have been turned virtual. And I see everybody turning themselves upside down to make a fabulous online experience. And trying to engage in ways that are new, and trying to engage in ways that are creative, and trying to bring people together, realizing that we have not only the constraints of not being able to be in person, but also having the limitless possibilities of technology at our disposal. And I've been to some pretty fabulous conferences and conventions over the last 6 months. I'm concerned that for the scope of work here, we're talking about potentially 10 meetings with 10 people, and that's 100 people total that we're talking about engaging. I'm looking here for something about how we're going to engage in a technologically savvy way. I mean, if we want to talk to kids and teens and get their input, why are we not utilizing Zoom? This is how these kids are spending their days, right? So I'd like to know more about how you're going to engage the technology, because I'm not seeing it in the scope of work here, and I'd like to know more about that, please.
Sure, so if you'd like to add that component, I'm sure we can absolutely do that. We did add the component about the online surveys, but if you're looking for more straight engagement via Zoom, I'm sure that can be something we can do.
Or whatever. Whatever.
We'll go to meeting Zoom, whatever technology medium that you prefer. I'm sure that's a great point. So we're definitely open to being able to do that for you.
Makes sense.
The city actually, we have a webinar license that can do up to 1,000 people. So we have the technology, and we did talk about over November and December, we're going to be watching what's going on, because I don't even know if in-person meetings will be able to happen in January. We'll see where we are. That's, January's not a guarantee. So we have the webinar technology, and we can certainly do them that way, as well as through social media, just letting people know. And we talked about maybe a web page linked to social media where they can leave their comments, where we can start building like the backbone of the infrastructure, put out all the reports that were there, the building assessment, all those things, so that people know that they can get any information that they want. We're showing you everything. Look at the building assessment. If you're on assessment, say, we don't need a library. Building looks fine. Those kind of things. If people want to do tours with the library director, I know she'd be willing. We did that when we did the fire station. We did tours of the fire station, and that was really popular. But we could even do those virtually. That's not a problem with a phone. So we kind of talked about November and December being a burnout stage to ask kids to do their school all day and then to get on the Zoom something with us. I'm just feeling like there's a lot of burnout with that. I mean, they're having to do this at home for their school, but we'll see where we are. We have the technology to do it.
Absolutely, we do that all the time. So, I mean, there's no reason why we can't do that. That's a wonderful thing to bring up. I would be wary of having too many people on one Zoom, because you know how it is. When there's too many people in a group or in a room, then people get shy about speaking up. And so we try to whenever we have those, we try to keep them to around 12 to 14, because people just get shy and intimidated. But yes, that's a great point you bring up, so we can look to add that.
But Julie, in my mind, when, I'm sure everybody has their own thoughts what this is going to look like, but my vision is we're going to just keep pushing this. I mean, we're not going to push it on Facebook one day and then not hit it for another week. My thought is push it, get it out, emails, Facebook, whatever. Just let it and hit it a lot of times, and not just be passive about it. But
well, the great thing about this is that this is a partnership with the city. I mean, when we talked with Sharon, this is not just us on social media. That portion is the city's ownership part of it, but we're working collaboratively with you alongside it to make sure that you have all the information you need to be able to have that build up.
And I bet Robert can do this.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Sharon, I'm sure can talk to what you had just discussed about that during our.
Engaging.
Well, to the fact that Robert did a really good job with the trees. I mean, I think he put it out there a couple times, and I'm on a lot of different neighborhood Facebook sites. And yeah, I've seen it on probably 4 different neighborhood sites about the tree giveaway. So, and, you know, I can see the same thing with, but even better with the library. I think, you know, if you give that information, you connect it with the right people, they'll put it out there and share it and do the
Right,
right flow.
I think one of the things we were concerned about is losing the momentum of making progress.
Correct.
You know, by losing 2 months, we could use those 2 months to build up that awareness, build some educational pieces, so people can find information if they want, they'll be ready to participate and give us their opinions. You know, there may be people who've never been to the library. You know, there may be people who use it all the time. It's just really a wide group of people we're talking to.
What do you want your community to be able to offer you?
Yeah,
Right.
people who don't use Zoom or any of that stuff, you know, we definitely want to engage our seniors.
That's the biggest challenge, like, you have to have something for everyone. I mean, and I think you brought up a great point about doing the Zoom, but I mean, it's like you have to do something for everyone, have to meet in person, have it online, you know, it's definitely a challenge.
And Lizzie's point, 100 people, I think, you know, there's thousands of people that love the library, and they're gonna want some input, so.
Absolutely, the thing is though, is you have to be able to have, a meaningful discussion. And so you can't do that. I mean, again, we would have normally, you know, a year ago, 6 months ago, you would have had 3 to 4 of these in person, and you would have had around 60 to 100 people broken up into tables, not socially distanced. And so, you know, we have to work within what we're given, and we're happy to include what you commented on. Absolutely, we do that all the time.
Yeah, we've done it in the past. We did it on this building.
Yeah.
You know, so.
But Lizzie,
Yeah,
are you getting to where you'd rather have 15 or 20 meetings, one a day for a month or whatever it is, as long as we got that number right of 15 people at each meeting?
I think before we have all these new meetings and all these Zoom meetings, we're probably going to have to relook at this contract.
Right. Because every time if we add on new meetings and stuff, it's more
Are we
money.
willing to increase the contract?
Right.
Because they're not going to do this for free.
Right.
And then do we set a maximum amount and let Sharon disperse it as she sees fit and trust her judgment, or do we bring every $5,000 incremental increase back to council? What I brought up before, and I went in a different direction, was the political aspect of this, because this is a political campaign where we're trying to get people to vote on something. And so the questions I was asking are questions that are going to come up and be asked. And maybe this isn't the venue to do that, but those are, I mean, Winter Park, of all the people who you think would go heads over tails for a library referendum, there's barely squeaked by. And so I don't want to get, 100 people who are all gung-ho for the library and put them in a room and let them design a library. I want to get people who have never walked into that library building, which probably would be the majority of residents in Maitland, I'm guessing, and see what they think of it, and see what the realities are of, and I hope, and I would support it. I hope everyone would agree to do it, and I think we do that by giving them a good product for a good price. And Mayor, I have to, if you get ambiguous and sort of ill-defined and an open checkbook, that's when people start to vote against things. So I disagree on that, and then I think we should have a well-defined, basically a library with other, things thrown in, meeting spaces and the seniors can meet there and whatever. But as we move forward with this, I would, at some point, I think we need to find out if this is really politically feasible, if this is what people, or do we just want to sort of roll the dice and go for it? Because we did that on, they went for City Hall and police and fire, so, maybe they'll go for this without any questions, and that would be a wonderful thing, but I've been involved in too many campaigns to not want to cover my bases and know what we're getting into, because if you have a political professional run this, first thing you're going to do is do a survey and find out what talking points people like for a new library and what turns them off, what they'd be willing to pay and such and such. So, and we're not going to do that. And maybe in Maitland you don't have to do that. And then one last thing, when we bring, everyone who, these 100 people or however many people we end up having, we're not just saying, hey, what do you want? Are we like giving them the foundation for what a building or a library would be and saying, getting your boilerplate 21st century Bill Gates library off the shelf and saying this is kind of a starting point in what we're looking at, and what would you like to see, else would you like to see happen within that building, aside from 2 more stories on top of it?
A little bit of all that, Councilman. We get a lot of good input if we actually put stuff out there. Let's say we put, I'm just going to get an architectural style, we're going to talk about that. Let's say we lay out 5 different architectural styles, 5 pictures, we ask people to vote on. What seems to make sense to me? So by giving them things to talk about and communicate, if we just gave them an empty room, we wouldn't get good data out of it. Right. So we certainly, we'll be doing sketches over site plans, we'll be testing sizes, we'll be saying, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? How does this look? All those things go into these kind of process.
Are you going to have a budget in mind when you do that? Or are you going to go from the premise of, well, about 10 million?
If we came back to you and said no budget at all, you would fire us. So we always have a budget in mind. We know what size the building is. We know we can't give you exact dollars, obviously. Things escalate every year. But we always have that in the back of mind. We're not going to throw out some crazy, Star Tech looking building that no one can afford, and then everybody's disappointed. So we always have that in the back of mind. Same when we had in the City Hall and the fire station, we always have that.
So you have one in the back of your mind now?
Yeah, that'd be interesting to hear Scott fill us in on that.
No, I don't have one.
I didn't think so.
We have square footage. We don't know what the square footage is, so we don't have a.
I always thought we were generally in the ballpark of 20,000 square feet, give or take, always. For some reason, that number is stuck.
Is it 2 stories? Is it 2.5 stories? Is there things happening on the roof? Is there a certain amount of glazing? Is what kind of activities? How big of a spans? There's just so much to look at. Is there maker space? Is not maker space? When we get to this next level, then we start to define what the building can be. And then we can certainly talk to people about those estimated budget costs for that valuable.
Scott, it's like a menu. You go to the restaurant you've never been to, you don't know what it offers until you open that menu.
Right.
So then you see all the things that you can have and what it comes with, but then there's a price with it.
Sure.
So it's like a menu.
Well, if I can just, we did the City Hall Police and Fire, the way we're planning to do this now, it's probably the opposite of you. So we went through all the community engagement, and we were lucky at times with brown bag lunches, and, we sit around the table, and we had, it wasn't like everyone in Maitland participated, but we had a lot. And then once we had an idea of what that was, and we could put a picture on a flyer, then we went out and said, are you interested, I think it's not just a picture, maybe not.
So I wrote a column supporting it, if you
Yeah.
recall.
So, but then we went out and we went to Publix and handed out flyers and talked to residents, engaged their interest. If they didn't understand, we took tours of the police and fire stations so they could see the facilities that their first responders were living in. And they hadn't been there before, you know what I mean? Just like there may be people who weren't at the library. Then we had a nice meeting with our police chief and fire chief who talked directly to residents. And at that point, we knew the dollar value. I think we even knew some of the materials. It was important at the fire station.
look a certain way. You know, they wanted it to, this building turned out to be Mediterranean. But I can tell you, it started with a fitness room at 40,000 square feet, and we're in about 19 now, 19 and some change. No fitness room, no showers, none of that stuff. So you do have to value engineer back down to what you can afford. And I hope these community, dealing with the community, will know what the priorities are. So, you know, fitness room obviously came off, right? I mean, there were certain things, there's like, we wanted, you know, you guys to be protected by from terrorists. So there's CMU in here. So I mean, we went for the things that were public safety related, police, fire, or function. You know, what makes this building function for the residents? And it was, I thought it was a pretty good support. It wasn't a 51-49. It was fairly good. But
Yes.
they wanted to know, because they were going to be in these buildings, what are they made out of? What are the materials? What's the style of the building? Because it's a building that's going to live in Maitland for.
So it's part of the focus group. One of the groups of 10, I would like 10 people who have never set foot in that library.
I think that's great.
That would be great.
That's fantastic. I would also, if I could address the councilwoman's question, Mayor, if I could address the councilwoman's
Oh,
question.
sure,
Yeah, earlier.
sure, please.
One thing that might help, we were just thinking about this, our fee is certainly not based on 100 people. It's not, we're not charging by the head. The more input we can get, the better. The more people we can reach, the better. We're all for that. So, you know, one example is if we have 10 people in person, we could be having a Zoom at the exact same time. So now we've just got 30 people, you know, and that's okay. That, all those things work. We'll just find ways. And that's what this next 2 months is really about. Coming up with a game plan, how we can engage the most amount of people.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to hear, is some creativity and willingness to try something.
Absolutely.
I mean, we're in uncharted territory here, so any ideas we can throw against the wall to get more engagement, I think is great.
And if we get Stacy's mask and start distributing those to everybody, so there's a library on it, you know?
Part of the challenge on this is doing this. I mean, we're doing this in an interesting time, and we're doing this, what you want to have, Dale, is a project that's going to impress
Ourselves.
grandchildren, and
Yeah.
we're doing
Children's
it.
children.
We're doing it at a time when community input is going to be struggled. It's a interesting time to undertake this project. I think we can appreciate that, but
Yeah.
I'm not saying it isn't the right time to look forward to doing something with the library. I just think it's going to be an interesting time to gather the input that we would want to gather typically in this type of a project.
Well, ultimately, I think I agree with Mike. It's ultimately going to come down to 5 of us.
I also, to Mike's point, I mean, Mike, are you saying, I think I see this playing out in that, I hate these. I feel like I'm seeing Mike through like fog. But are you saying that essentially through, I think the way they see it, and I don't know, you're going to do this process, come up with an idea of what's going to go there, and then we would have to have a second phase, which is that, hey, all those things you asked for, they cost X amount of millions of dollars, and then there's a whole kind of second round of this, which is whether or not the dream list we put together or the project that we come up with is actually going to be feasible based on a budget that
We will decide.
we'll come up with. And I mean, I see that as sort of round 2 or 3. I mean, I don't know if that's.
So that's not really how I envisioned it in terms of going back out to the public. I think you're gathering all that data, coming up with a programming and presenting it to this council.
No, I'm not talking about that going out to the public. It's 2 different. I'm not saying it would be another, but the next round. This is the first round.
Oh, yes, you're going to be, yes, it's going to come back to you.
Foundation.
Right. I mean, this is getting the information together to come up with this. I think Mike's question is, and am I right? Or you're trying to figure out, is there going to be community support for a X amount of dollar project?
Right. Will there be community support to build a new library, and then if we think there is, what is the price point and the value we offer them? One of the things that concerns me a little bit about this is not going in there and telling people we have 20,000 square feet and $10 million. So if you wanna build your atrium over here, then you have to take something away from here. And so, you know, if they don't have that restraint, everybody's gonna wanna throw something else on, and if Mark throws something else on, I'll go, well, I get to throw something else on too. And so without putting the governor on the engine, and putting some limitations, so, and I think when that comes back to us, then we have better information. We just don't have all these pipe dreams that 100 different people and focus groups came up with. You know, there's a realistic budget and building size, and everything was designed within those parameters, rather than people just everybody adding on their own bobble. So that's why I just think this has to be disciplined. I think that it has to have certain dollar amounts that we can present to the public, and a good argument why this is a heck of a deal for them. And, you know, maybe throwing CRA money in there to subsidize it, and saying, you know, we stuck it to the apartments and they're paying for a third of it, or whatever. You know, and that's something you would do in a focus group if you were messaging this from the political side. But anyway.
Well, if you recall, this is one part of the step to get to a referendum. So this is our fact-finding mission right now, to gather all this data and bring it back to you. It's going to be fascinating. The last one we did, young kids said they're really wanting a roller coaster to go right through it. Well, no one's going to build that. No one has the budget. But we had a fascinating discussion with them. And we were able to then say, hey, what if this room did this? Or what if we keep this room this way? Wouldn't that be cool? You know, so those kind of give and takes happen all the time in architecture.
So are you going to weed out the roller coasters and just bring us a final?
And Mike, that's why the people elected us to these fabulous jobs. So, you know, we'll have to pick and choose some of those things.
But you're going to have the data now.
Yeah, well, exactly.
And this is just our stage one, right? So tonight we're focusing on, do we want to go with stage one, and do we want to pay this money to see what stage one looks like?
That's correct.
Because stage two will be when we get into the amount and more of what it looks like for that amount. So stage one is just, let's go out and get the information.
Yeah, I think that's
47,000.
I think I think what I was trying to say, this is the first phase of
Yes.
what we
Yeah. Yes.
And the one thing I would say, and we've got to, I'm sure everyone's getting tired of this. So the one thing I would say on the timing and the start in January, I do think, and I don't know if there's a way, which one of your teams is the best at, but if there's a way to find out through this process, if we start in January and we're just not getting participation for whatever reason, people are consumed with other things, the state of the world is not conducive to getting feedback, I think we want to be either put a pause or to extend something to be able to react a little bit on the fly here, because
That's a good idea.
if we are underway on this for 30 or 45 days, 60 days, whatever time frame is appropriate, and we're just not getting the feedback we need, I don't want to rush this or try to say, oh, the time's up, we got what we got over these Zoom and whatever. So I do think there's I don't know the best way to write this or the best way to contemplate this,
But like, it's a one cost thing, and this is what you get. It's not segmented. That level one isn't segmented every month.
I'm talking about from you all, how do we gauge that, just to know that at the end, when you come back, it's a representative, we've touched who we need to touch, we've gotten the information we need to get.
Absolutely. So what we put in our scope of work is we felt that was the absolute minimum you need to get a good cross section and a good feedback for what we're looking for, right? We work with Sharon day to day, all the time. There's a partnership. Remember talking about that. If we're not getting the correct feedback, or we're not hitting the buttons, or people are just tuned out, we got to come back and rethink how to do it a different way. We need that input.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you, Lindsay.
This is not 5 months and then I submit a bill.
Yeah, because I gotta say, I mean, the last thing I would want to do at 6:30 at night is get on another Zoom call to talk about something. I mean, I think it's getting enough people to get engaged and get feedback. I mean, look, we would love to get more feedback on most decisions, even in a non-COVID world, and trying to get
Some of
people
you
to-
would.
What?
Some of you would. I don't get it now. I mean, I have plenty of feedback.
So Mike, I think your
It's
concern.
really out there in the sandwich board, we're gonna get some participation. So, you know, Joanna, Baldwin, Kathy, you know, yeah, we'll get people.
Anyway,
We
I
usually
just-
have to close the doors if we have too many people, and we have to divide it into 2 sessions, so
That'd be great.
I think you're gonna get good feedback.
Yeah, if we have to tell people to come back another day, I think that'd be fantastic.
So I think it goes back, I mean, we've seen a lot of consultant work here, years after years after years, and, you know, I think, to your point, you just want to make sure we're getting our money's worth.
No, it's not about,
Right.
it's about, well, I mean, everything's about money, right? But
Right.
it's about making sure at the end, we feel like we've actually gotten the feedback we need.
Touch as many people as you can.
Right, and I think I mentioned before, the Civic Center has offered their building at no charge, and they have 2 sides, and you can totally socially distance there, it's huge. Or we go outside, Independence Square will be open, we can go outside, people feel more comfortable outside, you know, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of happy with the cost of 47,000. I was talking to Sharon about this today, was if you hire somebody to come in and do the work they're doing, it would cost you 47,000 for an extra employee, if not more, and you wouldn't get the expertise of, like Anders has and these guys have. So,
I think we just have to decide if we want to, sorry. I think we have to decide if we want to put a contingency in there, if there's going to be added cost from some of these requests. Or have it come back to us.
over a certain amount.
Yeah. So we could give Sharon, and I'll defer to her, she knows a lot more about this than I do, but if these Zoom meetings and other things that we've been talking about, add to the cost, then, what contingency might she like, as long as she holds on to that money with a very tight fist and gives it out very grudgingly.
I mean, I would assume 10%, and if it goes over that, I can bring it back.
Okay. If that works for everybody.
That works for me.
So what are we doing? Why don't
You
we
say like 10%?
We're just adding.
Sharon said 10%.
No, if something comes up along the way with what's happening in the world, or we need to pivot or do something different, to leave a 10% contingency.
Another 5,000.
Or if you want, I can bring it back, it doesn't matter to me.
I mean, if they're gonna start doing Zoom meetings and stuff, I'm sure they're gonna charge us extra for that.
I think I think we should just,
Have it come back to us?
no, I think Sharon, you said you didn't even need to come to us with this, but you did,
But
right?
it will, once it goes 10% more, it would come.
But you said you didn't even need to come for this.
No, at 47, no.
Right.
But I know you want to have a conversation about it.
Of course we do.
Have a conversation about everything.
This is valuable enough for us to do. So,
Okay.
anybody from the public like to address this specific agenda item? Yes, you can.
Good, I'd love to hear some feedback.
I usually, Joanne Benty, 1771 Chinook Trail. I usually work all weekend when I think I'm going to speak, and I lay things out in some sort of order that hopefully makes some sense, but tonight I just took some notes, so this is going to be jumping around. I've already been speaking up at the library in my neighborhood. Here are some of the comments, and don't anyone please take offense because I don't even know that it's this council they're talking about. They say, why bother to come? They don't listen to us. That is rampant from past experience on my part. One person said to me, what library? Another person said, well, where is it? And the last one, which I was really speechless, as I told you I'm not speechless often, said, what do we need a library for? I don't even think we need a library. He said, I I don't use the library. I said, it's really not just about you. It's about parents with young kids. It's about teenagers with a place to go to do their homework. And I tried to elaborate on the use besides, you don't go, but there is a need for it. And I've listened to vocabulary from you all quite a bit, and here's some of the words I've heard tonight. Dream, modest, go big. If you go big, real big, it's not going to work. If you go modest, that's not doing us a service. I think you need to do the best you can with a site that will cover almost all of the needs you've said within a reasonable price and function. I also heard words of everybody, everyone. You're going to get some heat. You're not getting everybody on your side. You're not getting everyone. They're going to come at you with claws. I've sat here with a lot of that in the past 100 years. So I would ask you to task yourselves with your research, your focus groups, and I'd like to say something about focus groups. I and some other people I recognize, but I won't point them out, attended a focus group years ago on changing I don't even know what it's called anymore. It just looks like a peacock smattering of colors sitting on those signs out there. It was a focus group to change the symbol and the colors. I think the intention was good. I think it was well intended. But I'm not sure there was enough clarity because the table I sat at, it was just a free-for-all. And very little, if anything, was accomplished. So I would ask you that when we have these focus groups, which I'll be there, I'll probably be there every 10, that there's great clarity on what the purpose is. And this isn't just to come and talk about recipes or what happened in your kid's classroom. You can't have a table monitor, I get that, that's not going to work. But we have to have enormous direction and clarity, and I would ask for a sheet of paper sort of outlining what we should be discussing, because they're going to go off on tangents. That night over in the Civic Center, we all had big sheets of paper and markers. It was not good. And I'm not even sure there were good results from that. So, again, I would ask you to do the very best you can, which I do believe you do. I believe you take a lot of heat already. Perhaps I've given you some. But, as you know, you can't please everybody, and I accept that. So please, clarity, make it better and bigger than we have. But if you use words like, what's your dream? Dreams don't often always come true. Let's get a realistic, reasonable focus here to make something we will all be proud of and useful. And thank you for this, because it's going to be heavy.
Thanks, Joanne. Anybody else like to address the council on this particular agenda item? Yes, sir.
All right, so my name is Carlos Reyna at 1200 Willowbrook. Now this is something I'm excited about. As a disabled veteran, I can tell you that we can't call it a library. Like he says, to get everybody together, information center. I don't know whether I just forgot whatever information center or welcome center, not a welcome center, but it's really where we gather the community. The Orlando Accordion Club is a non-for-profit that meets at every library here in Orange County. They teach music, they teach how to play accordion, the history of the accordion. I know him if I was president, I'm his secretary. So I have to do what this gentleman does. I do the distance learning. So I broadcast it to the libraries. We don't have to have something here big now. We can have smaller buildings and broadcast. All the books are really online. No one does book reports anymore. So if you want to get the kids involved, get them at the schools, library field trip, and then from there you can broadcast just like he's doing, and you can get your kids involved. That's the way to do it. That telephony information right there, I don't know how old this building is outdated. The university I work for, the person that talks, camera just like that in 2 seconds. So that's what you do. You can talk to Spectrum, because personally, Maitland is one of the top 5 in regards to bandwidth and cellular service. Too many landlines, too many interruptions, too many trees, too old wires, nothing, no fiber to the curb, nothing. But you can talk to Spectrum like the Orlando Magic did. They created a bigger footprint for the Orlando Union down there, or that area that they don't want to create because they want to get all the city buildings. Now they have Wi-Fi. There's too many reports right now because of the COVID that kids are going to ride their bikes to school to use the Wi-Fi. That's ridiculous. That's something that we should be providing library. Just like I asked Dan Mathis at the last meeting, the famous, I forgot, what was that? The restaurant? The online restaurant? They should have Wi-Fi because you can create footprint for the city and then everybody, and then your footprint grows. Because if they want to order online and sit there in a parking lot, they still have to have internet. So,
Make a note,
anyway,
Scott.
what was that?
I'm sorry, I was just commenting, reminding Scott to make a note. You get
It's
public
just
input right
bandwidth.
now.
I mean, you can get spectrum and then you have a city-wide footprint in regards to having antennas at all this older buildings and new uprights, which is really nice, you know? That's, and not just that, but then, I don't know if this gentleman talked to you, I will definitely give my services. In the Air Force, I did secure communications and wideband communications. You guys produce the products, and I'm there. I did meeting house, and harbor house, all of those. We do that for free when I worked at Sprint, Nextel Sprint, and Embark in CenturyLink. But as a disabled veteran, I want to get to work. Call me.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else like to address this particular agenda item?
Kathy Sandifer, 710 Lake Catherine. Thank you, gentlemen, for your service for our country.
Thank you.
And I too am kind of thinking along Councilman Thomas and Councilman Wild's talk tonight. The study that was done, I think by ACI with the library, was what they dreamt of, what they wanted. We want all of this. Well, we don't all get to choose what we want, but what we need is a new library. We do need a new library. Our library is not at its best. The front part is the heritage part of our library. It was built in about 1905, 1906. It was designed and built by the Waterhouses, which are part of our historical part of our A&H. So that is a building that can be used, and it would be lovely if the historical part of A&H could put some things there to be used, since it is kind of a heritage piece of property. My thought is, we all agreed on Quinn Strong. I was here when you guys voted on that. I think it's an excellent place. But I'm also thinking south end of Quinn Strong, not north end of Quinn Strong. South end is on Ventress Avenue. And it's I would like to see a smaller footprint of a library, because I feel like this gentleman was talking about, with the age of internet and Wi-Fi, do we actually need 20,000 square foot with an option of 10,000 more square feet, 30,000 square feet for a city of maybe 22,000? I don't think so. But I also know that we have a wonderful senior center that's not that old. It has a full kitchen in it and large rooms. It can be retrofitted to anything that we needed, and it can be part of our library. We could have an urban campus. Across the way is the Germain Marble building. It has a small catered kitchen and a large room for meetings. Why don't we become partners with our things in our city? We have the A&H, which is a historical landmark, national landmark. Not very many of them in the state of Florida. Let's take advantage of it, use it. We have a beautiful senior center that is used when we're not in the times that we're in. It's great, it's there, it's paid for, and it's on our land. Retrofitting of that would be a lot less than building a new building, and have them tied together with pathways, parking. I can see this in urban campus over on Quinstrong Park. It's an open, wide field park. I see it working as partners with A&H, the senior citizen building. I am a senior, so that would be one of the things that I would like to see. My taxes, as I get older, are not something that I want to spend on a 20,000 square foot building that I probably wouldn't use. I like smaller venues. I think they're more intimate. And I don't want to spend $10, $20 million on a huge building that I don't think we will need, especially in today's Wi-Fi era where things can go anywhere and everywhere. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, Kathy. We've already had the opportunity to speak once. We'll do that at the next meeting. Thank you. Anyone else that hasn't spoken already like to speak again regarding this specific agenda item? Hearing none. All right, very good. Let's bring this back to council. Sharon, what were you looking for from us ideally tonight?
So authorization to execute the contract, and we talked about whether you wanted to put a budget cap of 10% on there as a contingency.
Sounds like a motion in my world.
I think so.
Well, Sharon can't make motions.
I cannot.
Right. Well, I'll make the motion of approval for the 47,000 with the contingent of 10%, you said? Increase. Anything over to come back to council.
We have a motion. Looking for a second. Well, appears as though we don't have a second for that, do we? All right. Motion dies for lack of a second. Chair would entertain further comments or questions. What's the biggest concern? 47 grand or actually taking breaking the inertia of doing something? Mike?
I think it would pass unanimously, nobody just wants to be on the record a second.
Maybe the mayor will second.
The mayor would have been more than happy to second it, but I didn't want to make that quite so personal because it's just not that tough a call. So now we would have to have a different motion.
I didn't second it because I wasn't sure that the 10% was really necessary when we're giving Sharon the authorization to do what we're giving her the authorization to do. So I don't want to put a limitation on that, so I would just move to approve the scope of services and authorize the city manager to execute the contract.
I'm with Lindsay on that. I was confused by the temper. I just didn't know.
So we have a motion and a second.
I'll second.
As proposed in the action initially, right? Any other comments? Ms. Maria, if you would.
Councilmember Thomas?
Aye.
Councilmember Wild?
Aye.
Councilmember Guthrie?
Aye.
Councilmember Paul Harrison?
Aye.
Mayor McDonald?
Aye. Okay, scooting right along. Ms. Maria, if you want to introduce the item. One of my favorite bodies, governmental bodies around.
The terms of the Assistant City Manager, Mark Remington, who serves as the city's representative, and Mayor McDonald, the alternate member to the South Seminole and North Orange County Wastewater Transmission Authority, expired on October 22nd. Since the mayor's term on council ends in April 2021, staff recommends council reappoint the Assistant City Manager as the member and appoint the Public Works Director, Kim Tracy, as the alternate member effective October 23rd, 2020.
Do you have to go as the alternate member?
You have to have, it has to be a resident.
No, did Dale, I'm asking Dale,
Oh.
the alternate member, did you ever go?
Yes, I did, and they didn't want me to come anymore.
I'd like to say I was surprised.
It was another meeting that needed to be run. Now,
He almost had them sell their building.
yeah, I did. That's it.
Told her
He
the
said,
same
"You're working in
thing.
this, why would you do that?"
That was a dull night for
That was, God, Mark's telling you the truth, that was right. Get rid of this piece of, well, anyway, so,
This would be a permanent thing, right? We would always have the utility director. and-
It's kind of a strange little authority, so we
it is a
have
very-
one resident representative and one resident alternate. It's always worked better when the resident's been an employee, so they actually come back and tell us what's happened at the meeting, as opposed to just getting budget increases thrown at us. So it's worked real well to have Mark be actively engaged, and this is definitely Kim's area of expertise.
yeah.
So,
I'm good with yeah, I'm good with this.
bye.
Hey, Anders,
Yes.
we're gonna sign off now, okay?
Okay, very good.
Love you, Anders.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
Bye all. Bye-bye.
Do we need a public thing on this one?
Yeah, we're gonna ask the public what they think about this. Anybody from the public like to address this specific agenda item? Very good. Hearing none, we'll bring it back to council. Miss, a motion to be in order.
I'll make a motion to reappoint Martin Regantine as a member and appoint Kim Tracy as the alternate to the South Seminole, Orange County, and North Orange County Wastewater Transmission Authority.
Excellent motion. Looking for a second.
I will second that.
Thank you, Mike. We have a motion and a second. Hearing no further discussion, Ms. Maria?
Councilmember Wild,
Aye.
Councilmember Guthrie,
Aye.
Councilmember Paul Harrison,
Aye.
Councilmember Thomas,
Aye.
Mayor McDonald.
Now deposed, Mayor McDonald. Yes, aye. Very good.
Congratulations, Mark.
Yeah.
We don't pay him anything more for this.
Okay, anybody have any reports? Mr. City Attorney, you'll look for some questions regarding Bassmasters and other.
I will absolutely be looking forward to the dialogue on that issue.
And other various and sundry questions. Anybody have anything else wanted to report? I did hear we had a great community tree giveaway, and that's a wonderful thing.
We got Halloween coming up.
Got Halloween coming up.
Saturday.
I've seen my headstone. It's interesting. I didn't take it personally. But it'll be a good time. This is on Saturday. 4 to 6:30, Jay?
4 to 6.
4 to 6. I wanted to ham it up for an extra half hour. Okay, any other thoughts? Hearing that, we're back in on November, whenever now? 9th? All right, we'll see you back here in person. Thank you, everybody. We're done.